Do you think of a child as a machine that you just sort of put a routine and they're supposed to follow? Education is about learning and inspiring young people. Someone who is not reading genuinely should not be in the education business. I feel like homeschooling tends to work really, really well for the early years. Because in the early years, I like to call it foundations. You're building habits of the mind, habits of the heart.
Choosing the right education for your children can be so overwhelming. There are so many opinions, so many options, and yet with parents, you're always left with, am I making the right decision for my child? And today we want to have a conversation on parent-led education. How can we choose what's best for our children? I have an amazing guest with me today, and I can't wait for us to get into it, so keep watching. Today, I have an amazing mom, Rihanna. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you.
How is the family?
They're fine.
Yeah.
My husband Eddie is fine. I have 3 kids. Mercedes, Cara, Killian, who is my last born. They're all doing well.
Guys, are you hearing the names? My God.
We are literary people.
That's nice. Okay, so, tell us more about who you are and what you do, and then we can get into it.
Okay, my name is Rihanna Ntongo Semakula. I like to think of myself as an educator. So I'm a librarian by profession. I have had the wonderful opportunity to work in very many different education settings, but really where my love for education came from is when me and my husband made the decision to homeschool our kids. That should have been maybe 6-7 years ago. So we had our firstborn. Her name is Mercedes. We decided that we would homeschool her because we knew this one lady. For those of you who are Christian, you know the fruit of the Holy Spirit, kindness, compassion, endurance, joy, love, peace. And we had the wonderful opportunity to meet a lady who just exuded all these things without being pompous or a put off. You know how sometimes you think, oh, these Christians are like, no fun. She was really fun, but had such an amazing personality. And so we thought, oh my goodness, maybe she was just born like that. But as we got to know her, we learned that she had been homeschooled all her life, and was just an amazing person to be around, loved people, pursued them, did everything excellently. And so we started thinking, getting ideas like, oh, maybe we would homeschool. And so when we had our firstborn, 2016, we decided to homeschool. So when I was homeschooling, of course, when you're doing something new, you research, you read, you do all kinds of things. I'm a librarian, so I do a lot of research. And I just got deep into this rabbit hole of education. And now I am a believer. So that's how, that's about me, but that's how I got into this education thing.
You speak so passionately about it.
I do.
Before we get into it, let's break some ice.
Okay.
So baby giggles or toddler tantrums, which ones are more memorable?
That's a good one. I would say tantrums, because when you're going through the tantrum, you feel like it will never end.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when it ends, you look back and you're like, I thought that would never end, and then it has ended. So I would say tantrums. Those are memorable.
Okay. What's your go-to parenting hack?
I would say having a bin of art materials. I think that never fails in my house.
How so?
Colored pencils, paper, it doesn't matter how, I don't know, excited or over the top in emotions the kids are. The moment you get that bin out and say, okay, let's do some artwork, the kids just are like, oh yeah, let's get into it. So people are grabbing scissors, people are grabbing paper, people are grabbing all kinds of things to work. So I feel like it's a good one. Like, mommy, like I'm so bored. Or mommy, this one is beating me. Just get your art bin. Let's make something. And everybody is just quiet. And, okay, let's do something. Let's create some art.
That's a good
that's
tip.
my hack. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we're getting into the whole conversation about, education. And one thing I know that you're passionate about is parent-led education.
Yeah.
First of all, what is that? What does that even mean?
I know. Yeah. So my friend recently was talking about homeschooling. I was talking to her, and we were both really passionate about homeschooling. But then we were like, you know what? The moment you say homeschooling in Uganda, people kind of switch off.
Yeah.
And yet, well, it's an amazing thing. So we said, you know what? We should say parent-led education, because people make different choices. So you know how your kids go to a school, and my family, right now, my kids go to a school as well. They've been in a school but are transitioning back to homeschool. Then there are families who they do like a hybrid, they do some virtual school, they do some real school. So people make different choices about education. So as we were talking, we realized that really what we're talking about is parent-led education. So that's how I coined the term.
Yeah.
That when we talk about homeschooling, people switch off, but really what we want to advocate for is parent-led education. Parent-led education is I think of the term from the Bible, in Deuteronomy chapter 6, how God tells the Israelites, this book of the law that I'm giving to you, teach it to your children, write it on your doorposts, write it on your foreheads, write it, like constantly be teaching your children what is good and what is right.
Yeah.
And to kind of go into the New Testament, like stretch into the New Testament, he goes on in Ephesians again 6 and says, parents, fathers, do not provoke your children. Proverbs talks about train up a child in the way they and there's like so many verses that talk about how I just feel like the pattern of the Bible is that children, parents are the ones who are in charge of the raising of their children.
True.
So the term that we like to use is discipleship. Some people like to say shepherding, some people like to say training. But the pattern that I see in God's word is that children, the mandate has been given to parents to think about their children, to raise them to become people that are responsible citizens, people who love others, people who care. And so that's what I mean by parent-led education, that the parent is empowered and they're making decisions about education from a place of knowledge, from a place of passion, from a place of understanding who their different children are, so that they have the highest chance of building these citizens that are contributing positively in the world that we are in, but also honoring God, because that's who made them. I mean, that's God is the one who made them.
Yeah.
And their greatest duty on earth is to please Him and to honor Him and to, be like that lady I told you about, like make people say, I want to know
more
about your God, or I want to know about your life or about your parents. So that's parent-led education.
Okay.
The parent is in the
it's taking charge.
Is taking charge, is asking questions, is researching, is going to school and saying what's happening to my child, and they feel like empowered to advocate for their child. They're not just saying, okay, let me take my child, drop them at school, and we'll see what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. And in the beginning, you had started a bit about that story of how you got to be even more passionate about this education thing. Just give us more detail. Yes, you've met this lady, but what was your background before with the children and with school, and then how did you get to where you are now?
Okay. So I'll just take you a little bit through what our journey has been. When me and my husband got married, we decided to homeschool straight away when we had our firstborn. And so when we homeschooled her for about 4 years. What we noticed was people kept telling us, your kid, he's so curious. We didn't notice this. Like, for us, it was normal.
It's normal. It seems normal to you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But every time we went anywhere, we were like, man, your kid is... like she's so curious. She like talks to adults in a respectful but like engaging way. She's not afraid of them. She loves to engage. She loves to serve. And so we noticed that there was like we were doing something differently. Yeah. And what we had done is we decided, after talking to this lady a bit, that we would homeschool her. So all that I did was choose a curriculum, do a lot of research, and teach her at home. And teaching at home is not like teaching at school, obviously. Not like they're different. And so from the moment we wake up, we are teaching. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like from spending time together as a family, sitting down to do math, all those things. And so we did that for about 4 years. And then because of some transitions in our family, I went back to school. So I've worked in international schools. So I went to this first international school. And at the time, we put her in a tiny school because we felt like
smaller, maybe
small. It still has the feel of a home, and so discipleship is the main thing for the children. And so I was working full time. My husband was working full time as well, and so we put her into that little school for about, I think, a year, and then we pulled her out again. I said, you know what, I'll work full time and also teach her at home, because I noticed that for her as a child, she was regressing. She's a social butterfly, so every time she gets where people are, she's just really more interested in the people. What are they doing?
She was not studying.
She's not like, yeah, she's studying, but that's not her big thing.
Yeah.
And so we pull her back and bring her back home. And after like maybe 6 months, I moved to another international school. And at this international school, they offer her a bursary. It's one of the, and so she has, like, we put her and her little sister, who at the time was 4 years old, into this school. And when we put, what I'm saying is, I have like these different experiences, little school and then big, like really international school with so many, over 20 nationalities in the school. And so it gave me this chance to really evaluate, like, where are the children? Like, what's happening with them? What's happening with their formation? Does that make sense? And so because I was empowered just by reading, spending a lot of time with the kids themselves, just like observing, I realize now we're getting into another transition where we're pulling them out actually of the international school again, and we're getting back into homeschooling, because we think they're going to do better in a homeschool. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to show is, like, as a parent, you're constantly making decisions depending on where you see your child is at and the values that you've set that you would like to see, development stages, like, okay, like if she's 9 years old, how is her learning, depending on what my vision for her, not my vision, but like what I discern God's purpose for her life is in this season. Is she really reaching where we would like her to reach, or is it just is she getting scattered? Is she learning all that she needs to learn in this season? So that's what our journey has been. We've been to international schools, we've been to home, and then we've been at a little home school. And at all these different stages, we've just been watching and observing and saying, okay, what do we think is best for this child? Instead of just doing, okay, you know what, you have a baby, take them to school, then they go to university, then they do this, that kind of thing, but just being very intentional and paying attention to detail for each child.
But I would like to actually know what the difference is. Maybe parents would want to understand, so what exactly is it with homeschooling that is different with these big schools and even generally out of home? And is it doable for many people? Because if you have a full-time job, you know that whole discussion. But then we can first address, like, what are those differences that you've noticed since you've done like all the different three?
One of the differences I would say is every child is different. What I've noticed is some kids thrive in school environments. They're just made for it. But I've also noticed that there are children that do better in a home environment. And depending on what school you take your child to, I believe that every child, no matter what their background is, poor, rich, Ugandan, American, there are certain basic principles that God has set in stone for them to be well and thriving. And so those are the markers that you use. For example, when it comes to literacy, we know that every child should be able to read. Reading is power. The privilege to read well, the moment a child reads well, it doesn't matter what their background is, they have a chance at having a future that is meaningful, and by meaningful I mean they're contributing in a very sustainable, consistent way to the society where they're living, whether they're homemakers, whether they're full-time workers, it doesn't matter. We want a wholesome citizen. And so the difference I notice, that's one, that different children thrive in different environments.
Yeah.
The other one is, I feel like homeschooling tends to work really, really well for the early years. Because in the early years, I like to call it foundations. You're building habits. Habits are the, what would I call it? They are the foundation. You know, like how you build a house and you have a strong foundation.
Yeah.
No matter what happens up here, it's going to stand, you know. And so the early years are the foundation. And so because the early years are the foundation, you're building habits. And you know, when people hear habits, they may be thinking, okay, the child picks up after themselves, which is true as well. But I think they're even more important habits. Habits of the mind, habits of the heart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do they think, how do you treat it? Do you think of a child as a machine that you just sort of put a routine and
they
they're
must
supposed to
follow?
follow? Or do you think of a child as a person that God created uniquely? You know how David says, you formed me in my mother's womb. So there was an intricacy there. He formed that person. And so the way you treat the child is with that sense that they have personhood. They are very special, no matter what their background. Again, I keep saying that because sometimes we think that maybe if I'm affluent, my child is better than a child who is poor. No, every child is precious and has been made by God. And so in the early years, I think homeschooling works really well because you're working on those habits. You're showing them that, okay, when you're teaching them, for example, reading, you don't want to have them to have what we call slipshod habits of reading, that they just kind of, you want them to read to retain information and then be able to retell it. Now, why I think homeschooling or very small, like if you're in a school where you have very small numbers, is very good for the early years is because things like reading, you need a lot of one-on-one. You know, with my oldest, I don't allow any mistakes. Does that make sense? Because you have just one child that you're working with, and then you don't have that rush. You know, in school, if you're a teacher, you have a syllabus, and so
you must finish it.
The headmaster may be saying, okay, by 15th December, this has to be done. While at home, we teach for mastery. I wait until the child has mastered a concept, has mastered a skill, and then I move on to the next one, those building blocks. So those are some of the differences. So in schools, especially where there's so many kids, like if you have 180 kids, how will you help every little child? While if a child is maybe 16, 17, 18, they've already built good habits. Does that make sense? So now, even if they go to a boarding school where there's like lots of people, they have good habits. All they need is some kind of supervision, but they have good habits. They can self-assess, they can self-help. You're not really worried about numbers. And yet in the early years, I think you need to be worried about numbers because you want good habits, good, strong habits that will provide a good foundation so that children grow up and they're able to keep building good skills and attain mastery so that they can, again, be these responsible people that we just love and that are contributing to our country.
I love that, you know. But you know, there's a biggest worry which many parents always ask themselves when it comes to homeschooling. One, they feel I'm not a teacher. I feel like they are qualified people who should be teaching these kids. Then two, the time. Even if, yes, I get your point. Okay, yeah, children are different. How am I going to do that with juggling all these things?
Well, I would say that the good news is that God doesn't call us to be perfect. He never gives us jobs that we can do. Does that make sense? We are insufficient. So we are weak. We do not all know, even the teachers that you're talking about. If you have a teacher who is stuck in their ways, they're not excited about learning, they do not read, you know, also then they will not be doing a good job, and yet you're taking your child there for them to teach them. So, so what I would say to that is that it's okay not to know everything. I think that's the beauty of being a human being, that you can become a person who learns. you research,
Yeah.
you read, you surround yourself with people who are excited about learning, you know, join little groups where you can learn things. That's the first thing I would say, that God is wise. He would not have given the responsibility for a child's education to you if he did not know that you could manage. Okay, so I understand. I really empathize with that feeling of inadequacy. I feel it all the time myself, but my faith is in God and his beautiful purpose for my children that he has. It's not in my ability. And so because my confidence is in this big God who is able to do all things, I don't have to worry. I can take my fears to him and then do my part, which is like, for example, if I'm going to teach a child reading, I just don't go in and that day I'm like, okay, child, Sanyu, come, let's sit here. Can we start reading? What is this? A, B. No, I go, I research, I learn, and then I come. And I love it because it makes you this vibrant person who is constantly learning new things. So your brain is being activated. So you're learning alongside your child. All of you are excited. You're at the table and just thinking, okay, this new thing that we are learning about together. But I would also say that I generally don't believe that everybody should homeschool. Okay. Does that make sense? What I am advocating for is that you are very involved in your child's education. So let's say you're in a season where you have a very high profile job. You're not able to really homeschool. Some people may say, okay, I'm going to take my child to this good school that I've heard about, good reviews about it. And what you do is you get involved. When you go, this is something that's interesting about many of us Ugandan parents. And I'm saying this in very good faith, gentle, push. But like we hear, let me say, Lisa has taken her kids to Shine International School. Oh, I like Lisa. She's a celebrity. Okay, let me take my kids to
it must
Shine.
Be a good school.
It must be a good school. No, there have to be parameters that you use. You say, you know what, like I said, for example, that a child is a person. You go to the school. I mean, they don't force you, right? You go to the school and say, I want to observe how do the teachers, especially like from the head of school, the teachers who are going to be in your class, what do they think about children? You may have some secret questions that you can ask. But also, is the school happy to let you observe? Are children a part of the ecosystem of learning? Or are they like, hey,
listen,
can you know? Or are they like, oh, Bridget, like, oh, that's exciting. What are you learning? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You will get the vibe. Do they treat children as persons or do they treat them just as machines that are supposed to be shoved and, you know, brought to a certain level? Do they, as teachers, love learning? You will tell. I tell you, it may seem like it's hard, but you will tell. Do that, you know, one of the secret questions I like to ask is, oh, what was the last thing that you read? Does that make sense?
Asking the kids.
No,
or
the
teachers.
Or what was the last thing that you read? Because someone who is not reading genuinely should not be in the education business.
Oh, fire.
Because very gently though, because education is about learning and inspiring young people to be what God has made them to be. So if you're not reading, if you're not excited about learning, you should not be an educator. So you ask, oh, what was the last thing that you read? You know, I'm not a person who likes books. In this Uganda, that's a common answer, but it's a red flag. Okay, it's a red flag. Or you ask things like, oh, how do like eating time? Because like a good, I think school looks at every moment as a teaching moment. Do they just shove kids in lines and then just go eat food, or is there a sense in which teachers are part of that process? Like the kids get food, the teachers sit, the teachers are asking, okay, what has been exciting about your day today? Because really learning happens mostly in those moments. But also another thing that's key about education is modeling. And I'm not a perfect person. Praise Jesus that he saved me and he's changing me. But like, kids learn more from what they see than from what you tell them. So do you sense that the teachers are calm and restful? The teachers are happy to, not this thing of acting that we see when sometimes in schools when they say, oh, the parent is here. And then they say, no, you have to find a way to organically assess, are they excited about the kids? Do they love to hear them? One thing I've loved at my child's school, for example, is the principal has her little chair in her
office
and she sits and she talks to the kids. She has all this artwork already. For me, before I see that this is someone who considers the personhood of children, and that's a good flag. So I would say that you need to educate yourself, even though you are high profile, even if low profile, but maybe you work full time. Educate yourself and say, I am going to be a part of my child's learning. Yes, I'm going to take them to school, but I am going to be their advocate, I'm going to be the person who is saying this week, okay, how is she doing in spelling? How are you doing in reading? When your child goes to grade 3 or P4, you get the national curriculum, you have it at your home. It's at Aristoc. You buy it, you say, okay, P3, what are we supposed to be learning?
Yeah.
So when you know by 5 years old, my child should be ABC, you ask like, okay, how is my child doing? And what that helps you is even sometimes you catch some special needs early. You're able to go and assess those and create individualized plans for your child to learn. Does that make sense? So I would say people make different choices, but the main thing is, am I at the center of so homeschooling is good, yes, but some people make a different choice, but are they still at the center of their child's learning? Yeah.
I really love that, because that's the emphasis, that parents need to be involved.
Yeah.
Not pick, drop, and that's it. Teachers will manage, you'll handle everything.
Yeah.
And you begin to see these things even in holidays, because like you've mentioned, for the need of your child, something may need to change, but you can't see that need if you're not involved in your child.
Really can't.
So I'm on a group of moms, with moms, and of course, people have, the year is starting, so everyone is looking, maybe schools, which school and what. And for some people, who know schools around Shira and Mgongo, and that's it. They're not getting into the detail of, what do you want for your child? What have you seen in your child? What values do you want to instill in your child? And I think we make that mistake as parents, because the truth is, apart from homeschool, your child is away for the biggest part of your life, So if they are away and you're not sure where they are and what exactly is going on, then I think that's a problem.
Before we close, I want to share something that's close to my heart. This channel has become a place where we empower families, restore hope, and build strong homes. And that is the work that matters to God. But producing this content takes real resources, from filming to editing to getting a shooting space to the logistics of it all. It can be quite a lot. And if you've been blessed by this platform and would love to partner with me in keeping it going and expanding the impact, I invite you to join me simply by visiting www.lisakusima.com and give whatever the Lord has blessed on your heart to give, to support in building strong families, one conversation at a time. Thank you so much for walking this journey with me. I truly appreciate it.
It really is.
So when you think about, I know you've talked about some of those values, or what else should people consider when thinking about the education of their children? And how do I see that indeed this is what my child needs? My child may need homeschool, my child may need this, my child may need national curriculum, or my child may need, So what are those things? Or a blend, Cambridge,
It's this, that. That's a really good question, and I think it's key. I think the first thing that I encourage people when they ask me, or my friends when they say, oh, Ri, what do you think? I will say, you need to know what your vision is as a family. Whether you're a single mom or you're just a guardian, the Bible says that my people, like that lack of vision, I don't remember where this verse is, but that sense of a person who has no vision, you just move like you're staggering. Does that make sense? So the first thing I would encourage, single mom, guardian, family, like nuclear family like yours or mine, or extended families, there's a judge, whatever it is you need to have a vision. Write it down. You need to find some time and sit down as a family, and this is what we did with Eddie, like in those early years, and we said, what do we want to see? For us, we know that even if our child sells tomatoes, but they love Jesus, they honor other people, and they, of course, I don't know if that's their full potential, but the most important thing to my family is not necessarily wealth accumulation or status, as UG is. I want by the grace of God, to have kids who love
the
God
Lord. Yeah.
and honor Him wherever He has placed them. So whether they are a janitor or they are a lawyer in some, I really would like that. So knowing that that's my end vision. And for me, I mean, like, you may be listening and you're not Christian like me, and you're saying, what's your code? And once you have that written down, you say, what is the best means that's going to get me there?
Yeah.
The other thing I think that is important to consider, I already kind of hinted on it, is personhood. God created everyone uniquely. Even twins, God created everyone uniquely. And He has a different purpose for everyone to accomplish in this world. And you need to really observe your kids. And God gives insight. I don't think that it's some complex thing that you go and you're like, oh, I saw he kicked a ball, footballer. No, it's just in the natural, organic means of life. As you're living life, as you're eating dinner, we have a child who is very intuitive. So her thing is brain. She reads voraciously. Things to do with the mind, she's very excited about. But she's not artsy. And then we have another one who is so artsy. She sings the whole day. In the morning, you wake up and you're just like, God, please, could she be quiet? Like, she's constantly singing. She likes to be drawing her little girls. She's very artsy. I didn't have to, but I'm observing that. Like, over time, I see she's artsy. She's very musical. And then we have a child who seems very aloof. But then when he doesn't like to take pictures. When you say, oh, hey, child, let's take, he's like, but when he's on his own, when he sees nobody is watching him, he's constantly fixing things and like doing this. And he doesn't like spotlight, but he's independent. Does that make sense? So in the organic, what I call the way of the home, you'll start to notice certain things. So just pay attention to the personhood of your child. Another thing that I think is important to do as you think about what education choice is to consider the fact that there's a lady that likes to say education is a science of relations. What that means is that everything is important. We live in an age, you hear people saying, oh, STEM is the most important thing. No, I think the way God created the world is all knowledge is important. Does that make sense? So are you giving your children a feast at home? Does that make sense?
Like
a feast, like this. I mean, you have books on physics, on chemistry, on biology. You have all these literature books. You have art, sports, biographies of Usain Bolt. A feast, like that's what it is. When you go to a feast, like if someone invites you, oh, come for dinner, and you just reach and there's muogo, there's lumonde, there's all manner of things. That's the kind of thing you're supposed to provide for a child in your home, first of all, but also when you go outside to look for a school, you ask yourself, are these people providing my child with a feast? Because the mind is like your stomach. The way you eat and you need a balanced diet, the mind needs a balanced diet. It needs all the things. And so you see there's astronomy, like all the things. So when you're building your home library, it's
diverse.
Like very diverse, and then when you go to a school and you're assessing whether this is every child, by the way, whether they have special needs, no matter what their background is, needs a feast in order for their mind to be very well fed and to just get into that active mode where they can be just engaged and curious, and they are really just engaged with God's world, because He made the world and He wants them to know all the things. And so specialization may happen. There's a fun book that's called In a World Where Specialization is Popular, the Generalists Win. And I really like that book because there's this just movement of specialization, or STEM, or this. But I think we are missing out when we do that. So one thing that as a parent you can do is just provide a rich feast of knowledge for your child. And knowledge is not only in books, it's also exposure. Do you take lots of walks? Do you go to art exhibitions? I mean, in Bukoto, we have all these museums in Kampala. Do you take your kids to see art? Do you take them to the National Theatre to see some drama? all that is part of a feast of education. And there, you don't have to push it. You know,
You
the thing
see.
of pushing that our parents used to do. You don't have to. They will find their way. Before you know it, you'll see a child who is so artistic. They tell the ones who come and tell you, Mommy, I want to do a bachelor's in art. Mommy, I want to do a bachelor's of law, because they really love to read. And does that make sense? You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about what is my child going to become, because you've provided them with a feast. And as they engage with all these things, you will see them finding
Their
their
way.
way. And if we are honest, honestly, Lisa, you will notice that the things I have done, I'm over 30 now, but in these past 10 years, I have done this, I have done that. What has mattered is, do I have habits that are good? Do I do everything with passion? Am I excellent when I approach a task? And that's what makes me stand out. Not necessarily that I chose this specific path. No, it's those habits that are good. And I didn't want to self-reference, but just the children will find their way. You don't have to worry about that and try to, if you
Force
provide
them.
a feast, they will be able to find their way. Yeah.
I love that. The values.
Yeah.
What's your vision, first of
Yeah.
all, as a family? What are you trying to achieve? Looking at your child and what you feel or what you see and the characters you pick out.
Yeah.
And that brings me to also, one child is creative, another child is more, reading and books and all these
Yeah.
things. Another child seems, you've said, aloof. And then as a parent, you're like, but why aren't you like the other one?
Yes, comparing them. It's just
This one is so
sad.
creative. In
Yeah.
fact, they are reading 20 books a day. For you, you are just there coloring.
Yes,
Maybe you can speak more to that,
Yeah,
to
you
encourage parents that, no, they can't be the same and they are
No,
unique.
they really
and they may
can't.
have different needs.
Yeah, they are really, really unique, and they have different. In fact, I think I always like to refer to the story of Joseph, how Jacob has all these kids and he likes Joseph and I think Benjamin, is it?
The last one, yeah.
That favoritism and what it does. I think we are not supposed to compare children. I think we need to encourage children to reach their full potential, but full potential is different.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So for some people, their full potential in the language of schools today is a C. And when they achieve a C, we're supposed to throw a party for some children. And then for some children, their full potential really is an A plus. And so I think it's very sad when we do that, when we compare children. We shouldn't do that. We need to encourage them in their different ways that God has created them. I am in the camp, education has all the camps, but I'm in the camp that says that there are certain basic skills that every child should be encouraged to build to excellence. But once those basic skills, whether you're creative, whether you're more science leaning, whether you're more artsy, whether you're more lit, best, I think there are certain basic skills that all those kids should have and should be built in them. But once those basic skills aside, I think basically we should just let kids reach their full potential, and everyone's full potential is different. So I would encourage a parent and say, do not compare your children. Love and learn about each child, and then tailor their education to that, depending on the means that God gives you. And I know sometimes we get distracted and we say, oh, but my child is not Bill Gates' daughter. How will I? No, God knew. That's why he gave you the means that you have and who you are. And so if you get really creative with his help, you will be able to give your children what they need for them to thrive in our world. And I know sometimes it's challenging, but if you keep hope alive and keep learning about your children, some of the people who inspire me the most in child rearing are in some very interesting places, but because they're intentional, they stand out way more than people who may seem to have way more financially. So it's all about the intentionality and knowing each child is different, and I'm going to do my best in the means that God has given me to raise each child as God would have them risen. So do not compare them. Just love each one as they are, and learn about them and do what you can to build them up in their different talents, different ways that God has created them.
That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice. And being in that space for some time as an educator and a mom as well, what mistakes have you seen that we are making, especially on this journey of educating our kids and teaching them and making decisions for them? What mistakes have you seen that you can highlight for us?
One of the big mistakes that I also make all the time is just forgetting that children are like plants. That I don't know if that's the best analogy, but maybe you know how the wind moves? You feel it, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
And so usually education, what's happening with your child, you don't really see. And sometimes we get impatient. Does that make sense? You're like, but my child doesn't read. She's already 3. I want a child who reads.
Right.
Have you experienced that? Like, isn't that common? Like constantly like, but now the other child is doing basketball. That thing of as if we are in a race to get to someplace. I don't think so. I think that if you have good habits in your home, you're practicing those good habits. Something that you're not seeing is happening with your children. And that's why I think I've seen many people who they just get compliments and they're like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because when they're in the grind, they think, what is the point of all these things? Why do we read? Why am I reading to these children every night? Does it matter?
Are they getting it?
Are they even getting it?
Yeah.
Or why do I stick to a schedule in my home instead of having, the kids are watching TV the whole, like really, I see other people are doing it. Can't I just, like why am I doing these things? And you get into that rat race. But really, like education is that kind of thing. You don't see how it's working, but it's working. You will see the results later. So do not grow weary of doing what's good. That's one. And then I think in Uganda, my observation has been, including in my own home, where I have to keep repenting, we have really bad habits. We take for granted the fact that education is an environment. Kids learn way more by observation than they learn in class of A plus A, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 and etc. For example, you want kids who read voraciously, but then you don't read.
Yeah.
Or you want kids who have self-control, but when they get at the table, you just allow them, Mommy, like, can I take... You don't have that sense where you say, hey, buddy, do you think we can we wait? Like, tulindeko mkwano, like wetumala, mami wana malok setting a table. Then you will eat. So those, I feel like we take that for granted. One thing that I'm struggling with is my phone, you can be saying, I want my kids to read, but you spend all your time on your phone.
Yeah.
Or you can be saying, so that, and this is something that, an educator called Charlotte Mason said, that education is an environment. So all the things that we are doing are teaching our children something, about what's important in life. Do we take care of the people who have less than us in our community? Do we treat them as, like meaningful contributors to society? Or do we enter in our cars and our louvers are up and then we expect that we are going to raise children who are compassionate? Or studiousness, like, do our children see that we take study seriously? Because you can be saying, school is important. Have you done your homework? But your kids have never seen you like study and accomplish something, and maybe does that make sense? Or you say, the arts are important. You have never gone to see a play. Does that make sense? You've never gone to, the National Theatre constantly has like pantomimes for kids and all these things. And so I think what you want to see, that's one mistake I see. We can keep saying it, like, I want my kids to be like, but we don't, like, our environment doesn't reflect that. They will not learn it. They will learn what they see you do. And it's very scary. But I think that's a place we could do better. And then I think a third one is personhood. I think in our culture, generally, children are, I won't say sidelined, not in every home, but in many homes, I have noticed, we think of children as a by the way. Like they're, what could I call it? Kiddish, you treat them as
real, like babies, like, nothing.
Can you be on the side? Like maybe you're talking about politics, we just finished the elections and you're like, no, the kids should, like, you want to give them a phone so they can go away. No, I think children are whole. There's that mindset that thinks children, they will become whole when they have grown up.
18.
Okay, when you're 18, now you can. No, like from the moment they're born, they're just little, but they're whole people. They have a mind, they have a tummy, they are whole people. And you include them, even if they're babies, as you talk about what candidate you're going to choose and why. You tell them, okay, I really like this candidate. While you're talking with your husband or with your aunt, sisters, you need to welcome them into that. Don't be afraid to, well, don't put them on the side. Oh, no, they don't need to be a part of this. When you're talking about money as a family, this is really hard for me because I don't know that it was modeled for me. You just say, you know what, okay, this season, this is what we have. Like, what do you guys think? What should we prioritize? Involve them. They really have so much to contribute. And I think they will also learn, actually, respect for one another through that, because you get the chance to say, okay, sweetie, like, do you think we can talk with a tone that honors mommy and daddy? Or they will learn as you live life with them instead of putting them aside. Those are the three things I can think about when I think about like the things that we can work on, and
as
grow
parents.
as parents.
Yeah, those are really key. Those are really key. Honestly, we need to we need to think more about this thing, because for me, every time I look at the kids, I get to, of course, it's a privilege that I am home more. Honestly, I don't take it for granted, because people who are working full time, sometimes the time to understand those children is it's not there. So I can begin to see King is like this. He's structured. He will follow instructions to the T. He doesn't need to be reminded.
Yes.
And then Rain is different. She's a free spirit. You can send her for something and then she stops on the stairs and first looks, around. And mommy, this picture. I'm like, first finish that. You know what I've sent you to do.
Yeah.
But when you analyze those different things in those kids, then you begin to see that, maybe, like for personally, mine are doing SCE because, of course, the foundation of Christian and things like that. But because they get to pace themselves, I see that works so well for King, especially because he's structured. He will set his goals. He will, do all this. But now Rain, I'm starting to see, because now she's going to the class where she has to set goals. I want to see how that matches her character and energy and all these things. Will it be the same? So when you talk about just understanding the kids, you may find that it may not work for her. I don't know.
It really may not.
I don't know.
And you need to take courage and see, okay, what do we do? Don't just be like,
don't
okay, it doesn't
you
work,
must
but
everyone,
let's go.
you must go, So it's just opening up my mind to be flexible, because what you want as a parent is the best for your child.
Really.
Not the best for you,
but the best for your child.
And I think that's a big thing as a parent, because you want what's easy, what's convenient. All kids are in the same school. You pick at once and go. And you start saying, this one, do this, and will it actually work?
But then you also miss out on the opportunity of seeing how God might work as you take courage and do what a child needs. Does that make sense? Like, God is really generous and big-hearted. And sometimes, I have a friend who keeps telling me this, sometimes you have to first do the right thing and then you'll see resources follow. Does that make sense? Instead of saying, let me just go bandwagon, or let me not think through things and just be slipshod and haphazard about... No, sometimes you're like, you know what? I see Rain, what she needs. I don't know how I'm going to work it out, but let me start taking steps towards what she needs. And God is like, he opens possibilities. Maybe he tells you, okay, you can homeschool, provides people who can, or he says, oh no, but maybe there is this school. And you're like, but God, how are we going to move from here to here? You just take a step at a time. But when you just go bandwagon, you never get those opportunities to see how God is working very specifically in your family to accomplish his purposes in the world. So it's good to think and be like, okay, Lord, we are open to see how you're going to enable us to do the work that you're the one who gave it to us. Like you gave us the child in our womb. Now we are trying with the means you've given us. Please help us. Because even like right now, we are pulling our child out from this. It's supposed to be like that, like the best Christian school in Uganda, and we agree, we love it, little numbers, etc. But we are going to pull them out, even earlier than we had thought, because we are seeing that the things that we are taking a step of faith, like what are we going to do? But we're saying this is what the children will need.
Yeah, but doesn't that change also affect them? Is there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't think it should be taken lightly. the change. I think that it's taken us actually almost a year as we've been assessing and thinking, and we see that this is what's going to be best for them. So I don't think it should be taken lightly. I think they should be told in advance, a lot of quote unquote counseling, what you'd call like conversations with them, just reminding them. One of the things that we've been telling them is, you know, our family values, and we really want to help you to leave that out, and we see that this is going to be the best way. I don't think it should be taken lightly. You're very right, it can affect the child, but I think if you take it with lots of patience, you take time, talk to the children, you're talking to your husband, going back and forth, you're doing research,
Praying.
you know, you're praying, you're talking to people who are more advanced than you are, you know, in your journey of parenting and raising up a godly offspring. I think that you can, with confidence, if you have to make some hard decisions, you can with confidence say, okay, let's do this. And of course, firstborns, I really feel for firstborns, they're like guinea pigs in so many ways. That's why I think when they grow up, they're like, but mommy, but daddy. But I think it's okay. I think like if you take it with a positive attitude, that this is part of my journey in the world, instead of like, oh, I missed this, or this happened. Like, just stay with that hopeful attitude. Like, you know what, mommy and daddy are always trying to do the best for me. And so I'll trust them, and we'll go with what it is. So I think it just you make the decision. And for some people it may be that your child stays in school, but you get more engaged, you're equipping yourself. I always tell parents that every child should have, every parent, at least one parent should have an educational philosophy, like what you believe education is and how it should be administered. Every parent needs to have that.
This is serious work, my dear.
It's not for the weak of heart.
You have to be
worth
intentional.
it.
That's what I see. You have to be really intentional about what's the goal for my child? Who are they? How do they? It's a lot of work, you know, and it's a call to us as parents to put in that work. Now you talk about homeschooling, and there's this aspect that I fear also, or many parents also fear, is when you're homeschooling your kids, all they see is you. They never interact with other children. Isn't that a problem? Like, they will not be social. That's what people believe, that they'll just know their home. They are protected to the T. They're not exposed to the world. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, that's a common misunderstanding of homeschooling. Like, I know several homeschool graduates now. I actually find, and you don't have to take my word for it, but like, I actually find that homeschool kids tend to be way more social than school-going kids. Because what happens in a homeschool is you don't have those, you know how in schools kids stay with only their peers. All of us are 6-year-olds. All of us are 7-year-olds. All of us are learning. We go to lunch with our teacher and we sit. And then homeschool kids, the guard, when you go to the museum, the person who is doing, they're just like, okay, what's this about? They're very, very social because they don't have those layers. Do you know some homeschool graduates?
Hardly.
Right? So that's the thing, like, because people do not know many. There's that misconception. But homeschooled kids, I mean, my kids were like, my oldest was homeschooled for about 6 years. So she's just like, she doesn't have those categories. When she finds someone who is 40, she's like, oh, hi. She engages with them. I have people at church constantly asking me, hey, I had a conversation with Miss K, and it was a whole conversation. I didn't feel like
she was a child.
She was just like, okay, how is your day? etc. So I think that's a misconception. But I will say, I've spoken to a few, like when they get to their teenage years, what in my educational philosophy, which is like classical Christian, there is what they call the rhetoric stage, where kids have to start thinking and narrating what they think, or engaging their bodies, gymnastics, in a way that's meaningful. I will say that when kids are older, like maybe as they start hitting 14, 15, you can invest in intentional community. It doesn't have to be a school if you choose homeschooling as your path. You have, we have what we call homeschooling co-ops. You know, I'm starting one, very soon in an area of Kampala, where like-minded parents, they may be school going or etc. You come together and you have these activities for the children, where they do debate, they do lots of sports things like basketball, football, whatever sports you choose. They do board games, they do lots of nature study. That's one place that we are really lacking in Uganda. It used to be doing really well in the past. But now kids do not know I grew up with grandparents who knew every single tree in our farm, or you call it whatever, garden. They knew every single tree. And when I would walk with my grandmother, she would tell me, you know, that's like a mango, and like, why is it like that? They knew every tree. This tree, like mululuza, this is what it does, like very intricately. My grandmother taught me how to smell that there was a snake around. So I know when there's a snake around, there's a certain scent that I know.
Oh my God.
And I don't think my kids know that. Like when I smell it, I know there's a snake around. It was huge. I mean, just taking a walk with him and seeing like, what does this tree do? What does the back of this tree do? We had like lots of fruit trees and we knew all of them by name. I don't know that my kids can say, okay, this is a pawpaw tree. I hope soon we can correct that. But like nature study is very good to do with other people, because you're learning things and paying attention. What is our season? People like to say that seasons are Western. No, we have seasons in Uganda.
Yeah.
You know,
For
we
us,
have
it's just
rain,
summer.
we have sunny. What happens to plants during that time? You know, like what plants like thrive in what seasons? That's very important, because God created some kids to be farmers. You know, they will be exporting lots of food to the rest of the world, and if they don't have that knowledge, it will be shoddy, it will be slipshod, like we said. They don't have a relationship with the land. I am one believer that we all have to have a relationship with the land in some way, because God made it and we need to know it. So back to your question, I would say like homeschooled kids are very social. I think it's a misunderstanding. Now I want you to watch out for them, since you've had that, like watch out for them. Yeah, they're very, very social, but those higher years, when they have to start higher level thinking, I think it's good. Like homeschooled families come, there's one in Chiwatule, there's one in Entebbe, you know, they come together and they, you know, do things together.
Socialize.
The one in Entebbe actually puts on Christmas drama every year. That's really amazing and like excellent. You know, it's homeschooled kids, they do their drama thing and it's just excellent. So it's really not true. It's a misconception.
It's a misconception.
I think. Yeah. Some homeschooled kids, like I know that, like, for example, a school, Heritage, they have the kids, there's a school called Heritage, and they have a program where homeschooled kids can come and join the rest of the kids to do sports. So there's many
opportunities
avenues, for interaction and socialization. I really think it's a misconception. It's not true. In fact, sometimes I feel like school-going kids are told to think we want kids to be independent thinkers, respectful, yes, but independent thinkers. So they can tell you as a professor and say, I really don't agree with that. And they have a logical step by step of why they don't. And you as a professor are like, oh yeah, okay, let's keep talking until we find, you know, we don't want kids to be group thinkers, you know. And sometimes schools
wholesale
have that, no condemnation, I'm just saying that just things that we watch out for as parents. Sometimes they have that effect that kids just be like, oh, are we wearing jeans now? Wide legs? Let's all go. Meanwhile, you may be still in the skinny jeans phase, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
You know, like you don't have to be like everybody. It's okay to be uniquely you. Yeah.
There's something else you mentioned there when you're saying something about not forcing kids. You know, you want to force kids into something. Maybe I would like to ask, like, when you notice, because sometimes I feel like as a parent, there's certain, let's say, skills that you want to instill in the kids. And yes, because children sometimes are children. They may not want it.
I hear
But then
you.
do we say, okay, maybe that's not what you're feeling like. It's okay, let's leave it. And yet maybe I know this is important for you to learn. So you may not feel like it now, but you're going to have to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So how would you set that balance between allowing the child be, but also helping them as a parent? Because I know better.
I've lived longer.
How do you balance that?
Yeah, like I said, for me, I'm a strong believer that there are certain basic skills that every child has to learn. I think there is a musical person in every human being. There's you have to know arithmetic, math. You have to read. Those basic skills that every child needs to know. So what we tell our children, my child at her school, they have this thing, I think it's called ISAC, and every time she tells me, Mommy, I don't want to do ISAC. And I say, sweetie, we're going to try. This term is basketball, you're going to go, and you're going to do your best. I don't want you to be the best basketballer, no. So the first time she goes, but I'm saying, that's the feast that your school has given you. I want you to try it.
Yes.
Okay? You're just 9 years old. Okay, so sometimes what you feel is not.
What-
The difference is I talk about it gently, but I'm firm. I'm not saying you are going to do basketball, child. No,
But
I'm
do
like,
you
okay,
like it or
hey,
not?
yeah. Like, I'm like, Nyabo, like, this is what is there. We're going to try it with a good attitude, okay? And by the time she got to the second term, now basketball is her favorite sport.
Imagine.
So now the other term is football. We are still in the phase of, but mommy, me, I don't want to do football. No, I'm like, no, we're going to try it. We're going to do our best. We're going to give it. When children are young, especially, I really like to encourage them gently.
Try.
Let's do all the things.
Try.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's try. Is there a music? No, let's try. Okay. Now, when I see that they have a good attitude and they're doing their best and they're still struggling too much, I may tell my husband, Eddie, oba tuchite echa, which hasn't yet happened. Usually they get into it, and even if they're not the best on court, they're doing it with a good attitude. Okay, so they push themselves. So I really feel like when it comes to sports in education, what I would call the main things, there's movement, there's off head. I wish I had where to read from, but like off head, like are your children moving constantly? When children are young, they are growing. They need to be moving. So they sport. There are different types of movement. Sport. I love the way some schools set up. You know, we have these schools that you have these swings that are yellow, blue, and that's all. No. I feel like children need a lot of movement. There's monkey bars. There's variety. There's huge spaces where they can just run. Yeah. So sports is key, I think, and in whatever way you do it. I mean, like I said, God allows us to work within the means that we have. Okay, we don't have to be comparing ourselves to someone that I don't know where, you know, right? No, we should not. Yeah, but ballet is very good for movement, I think, as well. But we have our own things here as well that can, so that's one. And then like literacy. Every child, like your child can be saying, but mommy, me, boys, you know how they like to say, me, I'm not a reader. No, we still read aloud to them. We still encourage them to read on their own, you know, an instrument, a musical instrument. Like we should encourage every child, not just like every child, if you can afford, if it's piano, guitar, if you can't afford, do drums, African drums. Kids love to make sound. It's part of how God has wired them. Okay, so they have some of those things you insist gently when you say, no, sweetie, this is what's on offer. We're going to do it. Now, there are certain skills that I don't think are in that category. If my child tells me, for example, that, mommy, there's a Rubik's, what's that thing?
Aerobics. Which one?
No, this one that goes around like
Rubik's
Cube club at school. But I don't want to go. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like we are not going to do Roblox. So does that make sense? I'm not going to look down on it the way I'm saying now.
But I get.
But I'll be like,
saying.
it's okay.
It's
I'm not
okay.
going to be like, oh, let's try with a good attitude. No, I'm like, oh, mommy, there's a club that's doing Legos. I know some of you love that. For me, it's not something like that skill can be good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just knowing what are the basic skills and what are the skills that are. So you have, that's how you get that balance. That's what I would say.
I like that. So that gives perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
stick to the basics. Then other things can come, but not important.
But they're
someone.
not that important. Okay. If the child wants them, because we want to give them a feast, we'll let them do them.
Yeah.
But if they don't, we'll be like, that's
it is
fine.
well.
It is well. Yeah.
Okay. So we've said so much. But when it comes to education, what are those success? What can I look at as success? What does a parent look at as success and say, yeah, I think I'm actually doing what's best for the child?
For the child. I would say the parent has to look at themselves first, not at the child. Are you doing all that you can within your means to help your child? If you have a phone, you don't have an excuse. If your child wakes up and says, mommy, I read about pyramids in Egypt. You read about pyramids in Egypt. You're like, okay, you go, you research, you get papers at home, build a pyramid. Okay, now you do not have an excuse. Go and look free, what's it called? Free on Google. Free documentaries on pyramids. Like, take it all out. You look at yourself, especially in the younger years. Look, am I doing all that I can to be a person who is excited about learning in my home, no matter what my education choice is.
Yeah.
If your child says, Mommy, can you imagine the President Museveni? Okay, like at my child's school, they had Independence Day, and it was so amusing to them because we don't have much, like maybe gadgets in our home. That's just a personal choice. Like I think every family can make. So they had never, which I'm a bit embarrassed about, really thought about the president. So
Can
at their
happen,
school, they had, those things where people do, what's it called? Like imitations.
Yeah.
The guy was hilarious. Like literally looked like the president. Had like one of the students, meanwhile, he had his, and they had got some of the little kids, they were the bodyguards, were wearing black. My kids were amused. They were like, what
is that?
President Museveni? And then he was using the accent and etc. They were excited. What like, does that make sense? So the next thing is like, okay, who is president? Do you go to Aristoc, buy the book?
Oh, wow.
Let's do some read aloud on President Museveni. Where was he born? Where does he live? Or does he live in Nakasero? Does he live in Entebbe? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Next time they're excited about, oh, mommy, no, let's do a quiz. One thing I noticed, like, that maybe they'll be excited about countries of Africa. And then they're like, Mommy, did you know, like, Botswana, maybe a teacher mentioned Botswana. Then you just go, you're like, okay, where is the map? If you don't have money to buy the one in Aristoc, you Google the one on the, what you call your NASA guy, can you help me print this? Pin it up. I love when families have notice boards or some kind of display space in their homes. Put the map on. This is Botswana. Let's do a quiz. Which country in Africa is? Like, just that's your assessment of success. Now, if your child grows up and they say they want to be this, I don't know, dancer or whatever, you don't worry about that. You tell yourself, did I do all that I could to be an integral part of my child's learning?
Yeah.
I did. And that's the first success story that you have. So every day, as a parent, when you wake up, you're like, okay, have I done, right now my kids are excited about Albert Einstein. So we're reading this book about Albert Einstein, and they're learning about how Europe has this, because Albert Einstein moved to different countries in Europe. He was in Switzerland, he was in Germany, he was in, was it Poland? I think for a while, but then he also moved at the end of his life to the USA. And so they're like, oh, okay, Poland is in, there's Berlin is in Germany. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they're excited. Oh, Albert Einstein, my little boy who is 4 years old, is constantly saying, Mommy, are we going to read Albert Einstein today? We're not doing much. It's just reading this book and already. So that's the kind of thing that you assess yourself on as a parent. Not, is my child number one in class? Yeah, if they're number one, good. But if they're not, for me, if I'm doing all I can, do I go, when I go for PTCs, I don't know, like, or maybe parent meetings, when the teacher says your child is struggling with spelling, do I go home and say, okay, let me go download some spelling practice? You're struggling with math, let's get some math worksheets in, let's do some quizzes. To the best of my ability. I won't compare myself with maybe a full-time mom if I'm a career woman, but am I doing what I can to make sure that my kids are getting in all the learning they can in a fun and explorative way? Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, I hope so.
I am awakened to do more,
I hope so.
That's really nice,
Yeah.
Allow the questions to come in. Yeah. Child is asking, are you asking too many questions?
No.
Then you shut it down because
I do that sometimes when I'm tired.
You're tired. You're
like, sorry,
please,
what were you saying?
Don't start, please. So it's an encouragement, honestly.
Yeah, I hope so.
But then there is this one key thing that we cannot not talk about. Yeah. A mom has listened to this podcast. They're like, wow, oh my God. Yeah, I think the child, and then husband is like, how do you navigate the balance between that relationship with spouses, or in making that choice, that good choice for the children? Because you find the husband maybe is used to the traditional methods of go to school, pay school fees. This is the best school. In fact, the building, the nice has been in here for 20 years. I trust it more than this one, which has just started, and manya, they are angry, So, so, but anyway, how would you influence? And I don't know if you had those challenges with your people.
I actually have a specific family that I think about right now.
Yeah.
And the mom is on her knees, praying that maybe one day the dad will see the vision she has for another style of education, but the dad is really convinced that traditional is the way to go.
Yeah.
What I would say, first of all, in a healthy relationship, like I keep saying, for me, I am a Christian. God calls us to submit to our husbands in as far as they're not inviting us to sin.
Yeah.
You know? And so I would say family harmony for me is more important than getting your educational way. But I do believe that there is a way for you to be engaged in traditional. That is while you wait. And one of the things that for me always helps me convince my husband, he can be very firm on some things. It's just doing my research.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Come
If
with
I
the
come to
facts.
him and I say, no, let's take the kids out now, I really think he's like, that's disruptive.
Yes.
Like, men can be very
Yes.
firm and they're like, that's very disruptive. You're frantic or something like that. But if I go to him and I'm like, hey, I've noticed this about Mercedes. I keep mentioning my kids' names, but like she was maybe every time she would come home, she was interested in talking about like what she's learning. Now I feel like she's just always in peer things and okay, this person is doing this person's hair is like this, mommy, and that concerns me. So I've done, I'm not telling him we should do this. No, I'm telling him this is what I'm saying, this is what we can do about it. Or if it's like a whole change from traditional, let's say, if that's what you want to do, to another, I go and say, what are the benefits? I will write down,
Yes.
which is what he would do for me. If he had like a thing he wanted us to do, I feel like he would say, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking about ABC. I'm thinking this because of this, and I'd be like, okay, I see where that's coming from. So I feel like people, when they have information, they are more, but even when you have information and maybe that your husband, whom you love, you just can't see it, I think there's a lot you can do within what
you have.
Like if your child goes to, I don't know, Chisasi some place like Luboa Primary School, and that's what your husband has chosen and thinks is best. You still can be a parent leading educator. You have your national curriculum at home. You just don't leave it with the teacher. What are they supposed to be learning? How can I make it fun at home? Saturday mornings, instead of them being for just cartoon the whole time, no, you can say, Saturday mornings, like since they have like this big thing that they're doing about let me say, like in our curriculum, I think like when they're doing living organisms, we have a lot that we can do about that. You can buy some fish you go like get fish that's alive, put it in a bowl, set it up at home and say, okay, like, do you see, then you take it out. Maybe Sunday morning, you're like, okay, we'll see when we come back from church or when we come back from this, will it still be alive, And then your P3 kid sees that, okay, when fish get out of their living, they die. And you've taught them. Then you catch the fish. You're like, oh, did you see the gills? Did you see the eyes? They're learning in a very engaging way. You're kind of supplementing what the tradition. And then do you know that teachers, like, do you go when you're free? When you have leave days, 24 leave days, do you put aside some of them to volunteer at the school? Hey, Miss, I don't know, Miss Rita, I'm going to be free these days. Can Mac be coming on Tuesdays? Maybe to read to the children. So you can be part of the ecosystem of their learning. So don't despair. Don't be like, now they've refused me. All my friends are doing this curriculum. And for us, no. You'd be like, no, it's okay. Like, I can do something within the curriculum that my husband has stipulated that we should do. And you have joy and be hopeful. You don't have to lose heart.
Okay, so you've said so much, we've learned so much. Any parting shots that you would love to share that we have not, talked about?
Parting thought. The thing is, when I talk about these things, I don't stop. So a parting thought can become a whole lot. But I just think that children are special, and it's worthwhile to invest in their learning. I think it's probably what I've been saying over and over again, but just in a nutshell, I would say they really are they're special. We can invest in them. We won't do it perfectly.
Yeah.
Even like as I speak to you, it's very easy to give the impression that, in our home we are constantly learning. We have our own setbacks because we did not get the same type of education that we are trying to give them.
Yes.
But we proceed with hope. We don't get caught up in, oh, we are not like this. Oh, we failed here. When we fail, we ask them to forgive us, and then we keep going. Yeah, like, so they're really, it's worth investing everything that you can in children. Like how you buy a very nice car, and you invest 60 million, 150 these days million, 800 million in a car. Imagine investing in a human being, like, and just giving it your absolute whole with joy and like hope. I think it's just the most beautiful gift that we have as parents, to just have kids and be part of their development. So let's take it very seriously and do it with all of our hearts.
I love it. Thank you so much, Rihanna, for sharing. It's
You're
been
welcome.
so.
Thank you
I
so
can
much
feel
for
the
having me.
passion. I can feel like, when if you
yeah?
could, you'd, I don't know, do it to us, because you're passionate about this thing. You want transformation, and I love it. I'm just thinking about everything I want to do. Even tonight, I'm just like,
starting today.
there's something I want to add,
Me too. I hope I have encouraged you and spurred you on.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Guys, have you been spurred on? Let us know in the comment section what's something you're going to change or you're going to add to your routine at home to just make sure that you're more involved and you're setting your kids up for success. Let us know in the comment section. But don't forget to like this video if you found value, and also subscribe so that other people can watch this video and also be spurred on just like you have. My name is Lisa Kusima. As always, I'm here to inspire.